What's up, everybody? So, I'm going to be talking about Mercury in Taurus. Um, this is a very interesting sign. I don't have a lot of people in my life that have this, so I'm going to have to really psychically channel all of it without much experience with it. But I am going to break it down into three different qualities and aspects that Mercury really rules, those being communication, the way that you think, and the intelligence that you have access to. So, starting with communication, Mercury in Taurus is somebody that might speak a little bit slower than other people. Um, they Not necessarily that the actual speed of their words comes out slower, though that could be quite a lot of people, but they take their time before speaking. They could be sitting in a group of people not saying anything, but it's not that they're not listening or they're not participating. They're waiting for the right moment to say the right thing because they don't really waste their words. And when they say something, they want it to have impact, they want it to sit there, and they want people to be listening to them. So they're not just going to blurt something out and have everyone not care about it because to them that's a waste of time. They have a lot of integrity and self-respect. So when it comes to this, that's why it affects their communication style like that. They might talk mostly about really practical things. They're not one to bring up really otherworldly topics, um, or say anything that's strange or contradictory or kind of off the wall. They're probably going to want to talk about, um, health or work or what happened to them today or things that are happening in the present moment, things in the room, things in their physical space, news articles, history, practical details, um, information, very grounded, earthy topics of conversation. So a lot of people might have a hard time keeping up a really stimulating conversation with a Mercury in Taurus. They're not someone that's very entertaining with the way that they speak. They're not trying to entertain you. When they speak, it's because they really resonate with it and they feel like it's important for them to say something out loud. So they speak for themselves a lot of the time. Um, Though they also love giving practical information and advice to other people. So Mercury in Taurus is someone that you can come to if you need advice on a certain topic or, whatever their profession is. Maybe they know a lot about a certain thing and you can really pull them out and talk about that. But if you want to gossip with them or talk about weird stuff, they're probably just going to listen to you, which isn't a bad thing. Um, Mercury in Taurus likes to Taurus is actually a very receptive sign. And they like to take in what you're saying and process it and go inward with it. It's a very introverted placement in that sense. So they're very, very good at listening. And they might come off as a bit boring sometimes to certain people who are used to that really upbeat, stimulating style of conversation, but they're very calming, they're very peaceful. They don't really get angry very often or pop off at people or cause drama with their language. They just use language to just exist. It's very simple for them. Um, and it doesn't become like a weapon or anything like it could for other signs. Um, so the way that they think, it also is very kind of slow and methodical, and this process. They could spend hours really fleshing out a single topic, and they're very straightforward and focused. So if they need to study, for example, their brain is able to lock into the two chapters of their textbook and go over it. And nothing weird's going to come into their head. Nothing's really going to distract them. And if it does, they're able to quickly just push it aside. They can completely fixate their brain on whatever it is that they want to and go into it for as long as they need to. And it's not so rushed or boring or frustrating like it is for a lot of other Mercury signs when they're trying to do something like that. Um, they, in that way, can be incredibly academic. They have very good memories. It's very practical for them. Um, so they like to think about something until they've fully fleshed it out, and then they'll remember it, and then they're good, and then they can move on. Um, there's someone that like has to finish a book if they start it. They have to finish a project if they start it because their brain can't really move on to the next thing until that thing is done. They move like step by step. They don't want to have five different tabs open in their brain, you know? They might just want to have one as a preference and then two if they really have to. Um, they think a lot about their body and their nutrition. They probably think about food quite a bit, and the earth and kind of their connection to that. So they probably plan out a lot of their meals. They probably think a lot about what they want to eat today. They think a lot about the money that they have incoming and currently, about their clothes and their material things. They like to think about what they possess and what they have because then it becomes physical and a whole new aspect in their brain, and it becomes more steady because Taurus and Mercury likes for things to be consistent. If they put something down on a table, they want to be assured that when they come home it's going to be in the exact same place that it was. That gives them a lot of stability. So when they map out everything with their brain, they expect it to stay like that. And this is where Mercury and Taurus, I know I'm like overlapping with the previous segment of this, but they will communicate about um, something in a bit of an aggressive or assertive way when they feel like their space is being disturbed, or if you touch their things, that's going to make them really angry and they will immediately begin to communicate with you about it because they need to trust and know that things are going to be done in a certain way because that's the way that they think. And if they're like, okay, step A and foundation is totally laid down, now I can move on to step B, and for some reason step A gets messed with, all of it comes dominoing down and they can't really make progress in their life. So they need to set things down so that they can move forward. And that's just kind of the way that they think and the way that they process, which is why they are able to create such strong and lasting structures through their mind. As well as friendships and their environment and their health, they can be very steady and consistent people because they have this integrity and they have this methodology that they follow to make sure that everything is in its right place and there are no, external circumstances, and everything usually goes as planned if you're hanging out with a Mercury and Taurus. If you go on vacation for them, it'll probably flow flawlessly, though it'll be pretty structured. Um, and as far as the knowledge that they have access to, it is a very earthly knowledge. They know, they seem to have like a intuitive understanding of weather patterns and when it's going to be sunny, when it's going to be cloudy, when it's going to be cold or warm. They can kind of feel into it and like it's logical to them. They're like, oh, well, of course that it would be like this on this day because the wind patterns and all of this. Like they can logically comprehend why the earth is going about the way that it's going about, which would make them really good meteorologists. A lot of it's really guesswork, but I feel like Mercury and Taurus really understands that on a mental level. They know when to plant crops, when to harvest crops, when the soil is good. They're very good with kind of being able to tell all the intelligence that exists within a land. They can really pull up a lot of ancestral knowledge. through their body or through the land that they're on. Um, they can have a lot of historical knowledge about the earth and the biology of it, as well as the history of humanity and evolution and animals. They're very like archaeological kind of knowledge that's very interesting to them, and kind of the past and all of those steps that, solidified and permeated and allowed us to exist is incredibly interesting to them. And they like to think about it, and they pull a lot of knowledge from that. They're really good at gardening and knowing when a plant needs water and when it needs to be repotted. There are a lot of people that struggle with being able to cultivate plants properly, and Mercury and Taurus seems to have all of the intelligence available to them. They also intuitively seem to understand what food is going to be good for them or good for another person. They know different ways on how to cook and when the ingredients are fresh and how she should use them in the exact second. They make really good chefs because they're able to logically piece together all of the ingredients to their optimum potential and really kind of ground down that experience. Um, they are typically also very good um, with being around animals. They are able to communicate with them through their body language really well. They might not be fully aware of it, but they're able to just exist in the space as other people really well without taking up too much space, but also being very solid and strong and grounded and taking up the space that they do need to take up. Um, so overall, this is a very interesting sign. Mercury is so fast paced and spinny that when you put it in Taurus, it really like slows down and gets all of that nitty gritty knowledge that's available to us. And it really takes time to think things out instead of just moving on to the next thing. So it provides a very unique energy to the planet. And if you have Mercury in Taurus or you know someone with Mercury in Taurus, please share your experience below. I love reading that stuff, and it helps me understand even more about all of the signs. And if you're interested in having me do your birth chart, have hands on or distance Reiki healing, or if you're interested in Skype sessions where we can kind of talk about your chart or whatever it is that you really want advice on, or life coaching, things like that, I offer various services on my website, and I'll put the link to that in the description. So give me a thumbs up if you learned something, and I'll see you soon.